Jon. Welcome to the first episode of Critical Content. Today we're going to be talking about our Agawam High School's atmosphere and what it's like to go to school here. So we would like to thank all of our guests for joining us today, and they'll introduce themselves for you.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Barrows. I teach PE and health here at Agawam High School.
Hi, my name is Joanne White, and I teach in the History Department, US 1 and US 2.
I'm Logan Kennedy. I'm a sophomore at Agawam High School.
Hi, my name is Josiah Liss. I'm a senior here at Agawam High.
All right, so first of all, we're going to start off, how do you feel like the general atmosphere in the school is, like, overall, just as a regular, like, presence coming in every day?
Mrs. Barrows and I were talking about this before we were on camera, and we thought it was, like every family, there are good days, there are bad days. Bottom line is we all care about each other. We are all here to support each other. There are days where you can't wait for the weekend, and then there are other days where you recognize how much fun it is to be here and how grateful we are. And like every family, we have each other's back, no matter what.
I think the teachers definitely also do a good job at making the students enjoy their time here more than they used to, at least in my opinion.
I agree definitely wholeheartedly with Ms. White about how this is like a family. There are good days and bad days. Like there are subjects you don't like and you're waiting to get out, and then there are subjects you really like and a teacher you really like, but then there's always something to look forward to in your day here, and that just makes the day and the week go by a lot better.
So do you think that student-teacher relationships are really important to keeping the atmosphere at Agawam High School, like, happy and upbeat?
Absolutely. I think building that relationship and, it has to come naturally too, and that's part of it. It's a big part of it. It can't, necessarily be forced in certain situations. Sometimes it's just particular students that, you somehow have a similar connection with or whatever have you, and then you can build off of that. But I think it drastically helps the atmosphere here to have good connections between teachers and students.
And to our students, is there any teacher or staff member in particular that you've made a really good connection with over your years at Agawam High School or even in the past?
My English teacher, Miss Hawkins, I used to go to her all the time for any sort of even personal problems at home or just life problems in general, and she was a big help. I had a good relationship with her because she knew my brother, so it was she knew how my family was, and it was nice to make old jokes with her over my family or my brother. So yeah, it definitely is helpful to have a relationship with a teacher.
I agree with Logan. There are a few teachers like Mr. Pender, Miss Person, Mrs. Hawkins. They're really good friends because you can just talk to them, and then you can just talk to them about whatever. Like I talked to Miss Person, Mr. Pender about history, random history questions, random history topics. I stayed after school sometimes talk to Pender randomly, or I go see Miss Hawkins at book club and we just talk. It's great. It works really well when you're just able to make the relationship naturally, just because you have them in the class a lot, or you just meet them and talk to them. It really works.
Yeah, and do you feel that you connected with teachers that you had as a subject teacher, and also to the teachers here? Do you feel that you really meet students through your classes, or do you meet them just in the hallways during prep duty or lunch duty? Is it more of students you had in class?
I would say for me it's definitely more so students that I've had in class that you see on a regular basis, so it's a lot easier to start to see what works for them, what doesn't, and what their likes, dislikes are. I also coach here at the high school, so through coaching I've been able to get to know kids on a more personal level, which is really helpful for me on the teaching level.
Agreed. It's easier when you have kids every day and you build that relationship. But then you also have the benefit, for example, because I float, so I'll see some of Miss Bonavita's kids, or I'll see Mrs. Ashton's kids. And then there are the kids that are in the hall that do standout things, whether it's right or wrong, whether it's funny or not. But you start to build a relationship with those kids because you see them on a consistent basis. So it's definitely easier when you have them every day. They're like children of my own. That's how I see them, like they're my own kids. But it's great to meet the other kids as well.
All right, not to bombard you guys with questions, but directed towards our teachers again. What's the hardest part of connecting with a student, in your opinion? Like, what makes that connection on a personal level that much harder?
Okay, so as a parent and as a teacher, you want the best for them. You want them to be successful, and you recognize that there's only so much you can do. You can't control their lives, you can only hope to influence it, and there are going to be days where a student will take your advice or make that right choice on their own or not. So I think what's most difficult is to recognize we're not making decisions, we're helping that student make that choice, just like with our own children at home. And it's frustrating when the kids are older because you can't ply them with ice cream and guarantee that everything's going to be happy. You have to treat them as the adult that they are.
And to Logan and Josiah more specifically, what's the hardest part about for you guys to open up to a teacher and like build that personal connection with them?
I think it's just having the courage to talk to someone. Like, if you don't, like, it's, say you have a teacher for the first time, you're not gonna like spill all your woes onto them at the start. You're gonna gradually build a relationship, then you can talk to them over time. I did that with Mrs. Hawkins. Like, I had her freshman year, and then more towards the end of the year, I started opening up more. I was always quiet, but then I just kept talking to her in the hallway every time I passed her room, said hi, how's your day? And then I just joined book club that she teaches, and she's a really good friend now.
I think it definitely depends on how the teacher acts towards me personally, because if a teacher is like goes by the book of the school, obviously they have to follow their own rules, but like when it's like they're stricter because that's how they want to be, it makes it harder to connect with them because they won't try to connect with you sometimes. So that's why it can be hard, especially if you like that teacher but they don't like try back.
Yeah, I see your point there. I think, I don't know, I feel like another part of Atmosphere is also kind of how the teachers interact outside of class, like in the hallways and stuff. Do you guys kind of feel,
Yeah.
you see that too? Well, yeah, because I know I've met teachers on like just walking in the hallway and they've been really nice, but I haven't made that connection because I don't see them in class. So I kind of think that's another part of it too.
Yeah, I'll have random moments with teachers I've never even had class with before. I'll be making a reference about something that like I think 90% of the school doesn't even know about, and that one random teacher I've never had just makes it the connection with me, and it's like, it's a cool little moment because sometimes it's just like the little random things that the school kind of has that makes the atmosphere here a little bit better.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a positive to our school atmosphere. All right, so now I think we kind of change gears a little bit and maybe talk about some student interactions. So like, in drawing on like your own personal experiences, what do you kind of see for student interactions? Like, is everyone really outgoing, or do you see like there's a lot of grouping of like common interests and stuff like that? I know it's kind of a hard question to think about.
Definitely.
You know, I think it changes from year to year. As a teacher, we see kids who are very, very close, for example, sophomore year. And then when they return in the fall, their junior year, you're surprised at their new friends and the friends that have kind of grown apart. So I think a lot of it has to do with what sports or what teams they're on. It's a maturity issue as well. And then it's having common classrooms and common courses. So for us, it changes dramatically. And then, you know, you have the dating world where sometimes that can be a disaster and sometimes
Yeah.
it isn't.
Causes drama in
Right.
the classes.
Right. Prom time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So to the students, do you kind of feel like there's a lot of changes with like friend groups and how that, like, do you think the overall school environment changes when friend groups change, or not really?
I agree with the thing about maturity. Definitely, I can get along with anybody, whether they're freshmen or an upperclassman. It just depends on the maturity level, I guess, because sometimes like I'll relate with an upperclassman on a personal level and we'll have the same sense of humor, or we'll just be able to talk and actually click, whereas there'll be other upperclassmen they'll be more mature, and it kind of makes me feel like more of like a child compared to them, especially because sense of humor definitely does affect how I interact with others.
And I think that's a good point. Like, I found that since I'm a senior now, and like as a freshman, I kind of was friends with people I was friends with in junior high, but now I'm kind of like, I'm friends with whoever, like I'm very open, and I feel like it's definitely a maturity thing. As you grow up, you kind of become different too. So I think that's definitely a good point to make.
Yeah, all right, I don't want to cut us short, but I think we're all out of time for this today's episode. So once again, I'd like to thank all of our guests for coming in for us to help us record this. I hope everybody at home watching this got to learn something about our school atmosphere here at AHS, and I hope you guys will tune into the next episode.
Thank you.